Greetings, beloved, and Happy New Year. I wanted to take this moment to just welcome you into this new cycle of life that we call a new year, and welcome to the R Spot. Now, 2018 promises to be very intense, and the place we're really going to feel that intensity is in our relationships. All relationships, love ships, family relationships, friendships. So I want to wish you good year, good loving, good times, and be sure to stay tuned to the R Spot. So if this is your first time with us, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if it isn't, stay tuned. We've got this week's episode coming up right now.
Get up, the R Spot. Get up. Get up, got a problem, don't know how to solve them. Get up, motivation, a source of inspiration. Get up, to make it to the end, you know you gotta fight to win. So watch the R Spot, it'll fix your problem. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Hey, only on the R Spot, yeah.
Welcome to the R Spot, the place we come to examine and explore all kinds of relationships. Hopefully you will hear or recognize something here that you can use to make your relationships more loving and satisfying. If you're joining us for the first time, be sure to subscribe. And if you're coming back for a second time or third or fourth, this week's conversation is a continuation of last week's conversation about broken relationships. But today, I want to talk about broken family relationships. I want to cover parents and children, siblings, even extended family members. This is a big one, so let's just jump right in. When we talk about family, we're talking about a group of people consisting of parents and children, or people who are related by blood, who are the descendants of common ancestors. Now, while there may be a blood connection or certain legal obligations between family members, this does not always mean that there's a relationship between people who share blood and ancestry, all right? A relationship is the way in which two or more people are connected, and the state of being connected, how they relate to one another, how they regard one another, how they treat one another. See, a relationship, even a family relationship, has to have an emotional connection. And unfortunately, in many families, for a variety of reasons, the emotional bond or tie either never existed or is broken. So let's be clear now that the American family structure has and continues to change. We now have family compositions that we never even once thought of. You know, single parent households are not new. We're not talking about that. We're talking about siblings with multiple fathers or mothers. We're talking about children of incarcerated parents. We're talking about an exploding foster care environment where children are moved around very often, where siblings may not know each other. We're talking about grandparents raising grandchildren of multiple parents. We're talking about same-sex partnerships. We're talking about many things that can lead to divorce or separation and breakdowns in the family or the family structure that impact how people who are related to blood interact with one another. But regardless of what we're talking about, the issue is the same. How do we heal with our family members when there's a breakdown? Now, way back in season 1 of the R Spot, I addressed lifetime relationships. This means people to whom you are related by blood or law who will always be in your life in one way or another. That's children, siblings, spouses with whom you share children, aunts, uncles, grandparents. These are all lifetime relationships. This means while you may not always be able to relate, you are still related. And it's not a good idea to try to throw these people out of your heart or attempt to erase them from your mind. But you get to choose how to be in relationship with them, and they get to choose how to be in relationship with you. Now, there are two types of family breakdowns that we want to look at. First, there's where there was a relationship that has been broken, And the second is where there was a weak or shaky relationship that now one or both parties want to heal. So let's look at number one, where there was a relationship between relatives that is now broken. Now, addressing old patterns and frayed relationships in the family can be very painful. And on the other hand, letting past wounds go untreated means that you risk losing a long-term enduring family bond. So rather than letting wounds and hurts and insults and slights fester, we must learn how to address them and repair them so that both of us or all of us can come out stronger on the other side. And while it may seem like confronting, or as I say, carefronting a family member, to do it outright is the most logical way, there are many different ways because we're different and we don't all see the same issue the same way. You may think that your sister is insulting or controlling, while she may not feel that's true for her. Or you may think that your son or daughter is selfish and ungrateful, while they may think that you're obligated to support them. You may think or feel that your father is emotionally unavailable, but he may be thinking he's done the best that he can and you're the one that's ungrateful. So here's the thing. People do what they do based on who they are and the information they have, which may be very different from the information or experience you have from your perspective. So in family breakdowns, the first thing you want to do is surrender all judgments and expectations. You may think that a parent should be this way, or that you may think that a sibling should or shouldn't be a certain way. You may want your son or your daughter to show up in a particular way. But when there is a breakdown between family members, the first thing you must surrender are your judgments of right and wrong and good and bad and should and shouldn't, and your expectations of how a person in that role should or must behave. Take the title or the label off the person and deal with them as a person. As long as you think your parent should or your sibling shouldn't or your child must, you're going to be dealing with roles and expectations, not the person. Now, this doesn't mean that you excuse a person's behavior. It simply means that when you take the role off, the judgments, the expectations, you get to see it from a different perspective, a more objective perspective than the role you think that person is supposed to play, which is filled with expectations that the person may or may not know how to live up to. Your sister doesn't have to like you. And even if she doesn't, it doesn't mean that you still can't love her. Remember this, the worse a person behaves, the greater is their cry for love. You can love somebody without having to be up in their face all the time while you're going through this healing process, okay? The next thing required to heal a family breakdown is to do your part. What did you do or not do? How long have you allowed or accommodated or tolerated certain behavior before you spoke up, giving the person the idea that it was okay? Is there something you're thinking or feeling about what you really feel, or is it because of something somebody told you? Have you experienced this person doing this directly? You know, gossip among family members is often at the root of a breakdown. So whenever there's a breakdown, you got to look at you and the role you played, the origins of the thoughts and feelings you're holding, because your thoughts and feelings about a person are intensified when it's a family relationship. Remember, that person shares the same blood as you. They can feel you. Whether or not you're communicating with your mouth, your energy and your behavior also communicates what you're thinking and feeling. And for this reason, you must assess and determine whether or not you have contributed to the current state of the relationship. This is not about making you wrong. It's about understanding where the energy is coming from and whether or not you have contributed to it. Now, another important step toward healing a breakdown with a family member is blame. Are you blaming the person for something? Or are they blaming you for something? Blame poisons the blood that runs through your veins. And wherever there is blame, there will be a breakdown. Now, if you are blaming, forgive. And if you're being blamed, ask for forgiveness, whether or not you're guilty. Just ask for forgiveness without defending, excusing, or explaining. You may not feel or believe that you've done anything wrong, but if the goal is healing, if the intention is to fix the relationship, just ask to be forgiven. It's not going to cost you anything. Here's something I always ask when someone is blaming me for something, whether or not I believe they're right or justified in their accusation. I always say to them, how can I make it better now? Or what can I do to make it better for you now? Remember, we can't undo the past. And if someone is holding your feet to the fire about what happened last week or last month or 10 years ago, the goal is to put the fire out and save your feet. It's not to be right. The minute you start explaining or denying or justifying what they think you did, you're going to get burned. So save yourself, okay? Save yourself. Ask for forgiveness, knowing that it may or may not be given. Now, here's a hallelujah truth. Some people just want to stay mad. It gives them meaning and purpose. Some people do not want to heal, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Just know that when it comes to a family breakdown, if you want to heal, it is your responsibility to do what is required to get the relationship back on track. You can deal with the rest of it once you rebuild the connection. However, if you are thinking that it's all on the other person, chances are there will be no healing. Listen, I always tell on myself. So when my grandson stole from me, I cast him off into the well of darkness in my heart. It hurt me so. But then I had to ask myself a very important question. Is this an important relationship in my life? And it was. Can I forgive him for what he's done? I could. Then it came to the hard part. How do I communicate with him how I feel about what he's done? Well, I knew that I couldn't do it right away because he was too defensive and I was too hurt. So I had to wait. I waited because it was an important relationship. I also had to look at my role. I had expectations of him that weren't realistic. He was unemployed, living in my house, depending on me for everything from toilet paper to a bottle of soda. And as a young man, I knew that he felt helpless and dependent. And I thought I was doing him a favor by allowing him to live with me. But I also recognized that by doing him a favor and reminding him of it every so often, that I was helping him feel emasculated. Did that excuse what he did? Absolutely not. However, when you leave a steak on the table in front of a hungry person, it is reasonable to expect that they're going to eat that steak. So I forgave him. He apologized, and I will never leave him alone in my house again. When I leave the house or when I left the house, he had to leave, and he did not have a key. So today, we're on speaking terms, but he's also clear that I'm not that girl that's just going to let you get away with it. Now, how did we do it? We had a face-to-face conversation. Carefronting grievances with a family member require face-to-face meetings as long as all people agree. Now, there are other options you can choose, such as writing a letter or extending a direct apology or practicing more open communication by phone. There are those options. However, there needs to be communication. You've got to make a specific behavior change request. But in order to heal a breakdown and bridge old rifts, there must also be an effort on both parts to improve communication. When there's an ongoing conflict in the family and you're tight-knit, you might even want to consider having standing weekly or bi-weekly family meetings. That way, everybody gets to talk and agreements can be made. Now, here's the hard one. When the other person or people, for whatever reason, don't want to participate in the healing. And no matter what you try or what you have tried, no matter what you do or have not done, the other person just cuts you off. They don't respond to phone calls. They refuse to speak to you. They act like you're dead, and it breaks your heart. You are lost and confused, and you just want to say bad words. My granddaughter, who I raised after my daughter Jamia died, she cut me off like that. She's the only living relative that I have that ties me to my daughter, and yet for some reason she will not speak to me. I raised her from the age of 9. I walked her through high school and all her lady changes. I put her through college, and I brought her home from college. And one day, she just stopped speaking to me, and I haven't heard from her in almost 2 years. You want to talk about heartbreak? You want to talk about devastation? So let's look at it. Is this an important relationship in my life? Absolutely. I love her with every fiber of my being, not because she's my granddaughter, but because she's a part of me and a part of my life. Remember, love people for who they are, not for the role they are assigned by life. Now, what is my role in the breakdown? Well, on the last day we spoke, I didn't appreciate her tone of voice. She was speaking to me in a way that I felt was unacceptable, so I told her that she was being disrespectful. And if she couldn't change her tone of voice, she didn't need to speak to me. So she hung up, and I haven't heard from her since. In essence, I got what I asked for. Now, she probably didn't experience herself as being disrespectful, and she probably thinks that I'm asking for something she can't deliver. So rather than try to live up to my expectations, she just excused herself from our relationship. And as heartbreaking as it is, I have to honor her choice. So I don't call her anymore. I don't text her. I no longer send birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. Instead, I pray. I surrender. I forgive. What I know is that she's young, and she probably believes and feels with all of her heart that she's right and I'm wrong. That is blaming. And as long as one of us is blaming, there can be no healing. So to protect myself from further hurt, I've simply fallen back, knowing that if and when this becomes an important relationship to her, she will call or come. And if not, if it's not an important relationship in her life, then I don't need to be with her. You know, I feel as her grandmother, her mother's mother, I should be important to her, but maybe I'm not. Now, in this process, I don't make up any excuses. I don't excuse her behavior, and I hold on to my standard that anybody I'm in relationship with has to respect me. There are no sacred cows, and she doesn't get a pass. And does it hurt? Absolutely. But at the same time, I know the pain would be worse if she were in my life and being disrespectful and unhappy. So while she's not here, I hold out hope that one day she will be. Now, this level of healing, this is not for punks. And it's not for people who are going to stand on the I'm right, you're wrong platform. When it comes to healing a breakdown in a family relationship, you must be willing to do 3 things. Pray, forgive, and let go. If the foundation is solid, if the relationship is important, if and when the people involved are ready to heal, things will come together. Now, it may take some time and effort and a whole lot of forgiving, but when you share blood, when you keep your heart open, when you surrender judgments and expectations and hold on to the belief that the relationship can be healed, I promise you it will be healed. I hope this helps. Until next time. Be sure to sign up for my mailing list at Iyanla.com because I've got a new book coming out in 2018 and I'm going to be on tour for the first time in 16 years. I want you to know when I'm coming to your hometown or a town near you because you can just come on over there. And I hope that you will follow me on all social media platforms. And if you haven't signed up for Awakening 1 Million, Awakening 1 Million Powerful Minds, please go to awakening1million.com. Get your gifts and your assignments.